disempower yourself and how to empower yourself. This is a topic that I want to talk about, and I feel like I haven't spoken about this enough, even though coaching is all about how to empower individuals, teams, communities, organizations so that they don't keep feeling victim to their circumstances, to interaction situations. And I want to break down as to how you will know if you are empowering yourself or you keep disempowering yourself. And I will also write a post afterwards so that you have it in writing and have some examples to remind yourself of what are the cases where you might be disempowering yourself, even though that's not the experience you want to have, right? So let's start with the disempowering ways that we treat ourselves and how we may not even recognize that. So, a lot of humanitarian clients, when they come to me, they have a lot of ways of disempowered themselves in relation to the system that they used to work for. And you probably can relate to this, whether you are currently in the system, whether it's the UN system, whether it is the humanitarian system, or whether you are outside of it, you might recognize yourself in these examples. So, a typical example is a humanitarian who tells me that the system has wronged them, right? The system treated them unfairly. The system threw them out. The system made them do things that they didn't want to do. The system made them redundant. Whatever the term that they may use, this is what they will say, right? And therefore, they feel angry, they feel disappointed, they feel exhausted, they feel they have been wronged. And then afterwards, when they feel that way, the behaviors that they indulge in, the behaviors that they keep staying in, is they don't want to do anything anymore. They feel very hurt, offended, and therefore they don't feel the motivation to do anything about it. They stay in the grief period for a long time, right? And they stay in the detox period as well. And then they still keep then trying to go back into the system that they feel they have been wronged by, right? So these are all ways and examples of how we disempower ourselves. First, by saying that the system did this to me. Second, by feeling a lot of emotions and feeling bad about ourselves, feeling pity, feeling unfair, all of these emotions. And then third, trying to again go back to the system that we have just been wronged by. These are all ways of how we disempower ourselves. And I want to explain how that looks like, but I just want to give examples of how this can show up in your life as well. So, first, when we say the system did this to me, on the one hand, we understand that we're dealing with a powerful entity, obviously. But on the other, what we're also not recognizing is our agency in it, right? And because we don't recognize our agency in it, what the risk then is that we keep feeling like we have been wronged and there is nothing we can do about it. And if there is nothing we can do about it, then the question is, why do we keep staying in that emotional state that is actually harming us the whole time? Right? And the other thing is, if we have been wronged by the system, then why are we trying to get back in again? This is another way that we disempower ourselves by saying, this is how you treated me and I didn't like it and I feel very powerless, yet let me try very hard to go back in again. Right? So if I take the analogy of the marriage, and I always try to showcase this type of disempowerment in another more relatable situations that maybe is more closer to your heart, right? So let's say a marriage. Let's say that we have been treated by our partner, our spouse, badly. And then let's say that we have decided to leave, or let's say that the other partner decided to leave. So therefore, now we're feeling very wronged about everything. And then while we are processing maybe, and while we are going through the grief and all of this, we still keep trying to go back to the marriage where we have been treated badly. Or so we're saying this, right? So you can see how in the marriage, if I explain it this way, how disempowering this will look like and feel like, and how disempowering this is for our mindset. But we may not be recognizing that. And not only we're not recognizing, but we keep doing this to ourselves. And again, many people would then say, well, I can't really do any other way. I don't really have any other choice. And I hear you. But the purpose that I really want to demonstrate how disempowering this is that if we keep, on the one hand, saying that we have been wronged and we have been treated badly, and on the other, we keep trying then to get in, what we're really saying to our inner system, into our inner world, is that we are trying to go back to the very thing that has harmed us, and we're going in knowingly. Because before, maybe we went there for passion, for love, for cause, and for purpose, and then we went in and we learned and we understood how things work inside the system. And then if we have been treated bad and we left, or we were thrown out, as some people would call it, and then if we're trying to go back in again, then our inner system is very confused. Right? Our inner system is very confused by, on the one hand, we're saying, this is what happened to us, this is how bad it was. And on the other, we're saying, we have to go back in again. So in order not to have that disempowering way of dealing with transitioning, the first thing that we want to understand or recognize, obviously we need to release a lot of the emotions. That's the first thing we need to do, right? But once we release a lot of the emotions, we need to start looking at, okay, if we have been wronged by the system, what are the things that we want to do moving forward? What are the things that we should maybe even be doing moving forward? Because maybe some of the things that, like seeking justice, going to the tribunal, all of those things maybe are important, and some people want to do it. Some people I also see that don't want to do it, right? So getting clear on, okay, what are we going to do with all the things that the system has done wrong to us? How are we going to resolve that first before deciding what to do next, either going back or going to something else? Because if we keep saying the system has wronged me and I haven't done anything with it, then we're just confirming how powerless we are, and then we feel bad about ourselves. But if we say the system has wronged me in these ways, and here is what I have decided to do, then we start taking some agency over how we allow other people or other entities to treat us, and how we don't allow them to treat us. This is where the empowerment comes in. Empowerment is when we take or recognize our agency, our authority over our lives, and start looking at why have we been treated this way, or why did we allow the system or another entity or another person to treat us this way. This is where the empowerment comes in. And again, empowerment is never for blaming ourselves or blaming someone else. Empowerment is there for us to recognize our own agency in the situation that we're in. Right? So that's why it's not just enough for us to stay in the story of how something or someone or this entity wronged me and not didn't do anything about it, and then feel bad about ourselves and feel sorry for ourselves, or blaming the system or blaming everyone else, and which I have been in many, many times. Instead of staying in that space, which is very disempowering, and worst, it is very confusing to our inner system if we then say, no, we have to do everything now to get back in. Then we are internally a bit like betraying ourselves, right? Internally, we are betraying our soul. I don't know how else to explain, and it sounds dramatic, but you know what I mean? So that's why instead of just going into, okay, I have to find a job, I have to do this, I have to do that, even though, again, for the financial purposes, maybe it is a temporary solution, but it cannot be a long-term solution if we say, on the one hand, this is how they treated me and how bad it is and all of this, and then this is how me trying very hard to get back in. So in order not to do that, we need to, on the one hand, start looking at why and how I allowed the system to treat me this way. And on the other, I need to start looking at why am I trying to get back into a system that treated me this way. And the only reason why we would do that is because we are afraid of either making the financial side of things work, or we don't trust ourselves that we can make something else work better. One of two things or both. Right? So the empowerment in this disempowering situation comes from not only recognizing our agency over how and why we let the entity treat us this way, but also why are we trying to get back in when we are saying that's how we don't want to be treated anymore. And if we don't want to be treated anymore, then is that the good place for us to go back in? Or do we want to do something else? Right? And if we want to do something else, then we need to have two things in place, as I always keep saying. One is keep trusting yourself and your abilities that you can make it work. And the other is processing and managing your fears so that it allows you to even take some actions. So I would like now for you to see how the behaviors of disempowering ways look like and the empowering ways look like, because we can recognize how we are in a disempowered state or empowered state based on our behaviors and based on our feelings, right? Or emotions. So disempowering state, the emotions are usually very hurt and offended, disappointed and angry, grieving, and some version of it's not fair. This is the disempowered state looks like in terms of feelings and emotions. In terms of behavior, the way it looks like is very just demotivated. We don't want to do anything. Maybe we even like procrastinate, we delay things, we keep waiting for things, we keep complaining about things, we keep feeling sorry for ourselves, we keep sharing and discussing with everyone how bad this was. Or the opposite is also true, that we don't say anything anymore and we isolate ourselves and we just seek being alone because we don't know what to do with all that's going on, right? All of those might be the behaviors that we are indulging in. And the reason why I say indulging is because we keep staying in that loop especially if we believe we have been hurt. We keep staying in that loop for a long time. Now, the empowering state, the emotions that look like, or the emotions that you can recognize from, is you feeling a bit of, why am I in this situation kind of a feeling. Like, I don't want to say pissed or angry, maybe even angry sometimes, but it's more like a wake up type of emotion of feeling in charge, feeling the power of how you don't want to let any other external powers influence you this way, right? Feeling confident, feeling more secure. And then the behaviors that follow these emotions is you start making decisions, you start acting towards what you want to create intentionally rather than keep following your fear that says we can't live or we can't survive in the real world, so let us just go back to what we know kind of thing, right? So these are the two distinct behaviors that you will notice yourself in doing if you are in the empowered state or disempowered state. Now, this disempowering yourself might be happening in a lot of other situations as well, and not only in relation to the system, right? You might be disempowering yourself not only in relation to the system, but also to other people's opinions, to your own opinion. And I will share my example from yesterday. And to any resources you might be disempowering yourself, like time is another one, money is another one. Maybe there are certain situations, your decisions, decision is another one where you are disempowering yourself. So let me give you an example of how I disempowered myself with my decision last Saturday. So here is an example that's just so, like, I mean, why would you do that? But that's what I did, right? So I was invited with my husband to a very wonderful dinner with friends and some other friends that I didn't know. And when we are at this beautiful house on the terrace with them eating mussels, they invited us for mussel dinner, and I love mussels. And while we were there, I caught myself feeling like I don't want to be here. I caught myself feeling, because some of the members of the group were speaking very loud, and I just, like, after, I don't know, 2 3 hours of listening, I was just like not listening anymore. I felt like I was absent. But then I caught myself feeling very constrained, as if I shouldn't be here. Why am I here? This is not what I thought my Saturday evening looked like, and this kind of thing, right? So this is my inner rebellion talking to me in real time in front of all of the friends while they're talking, and me not enjoying that dinner, even though it was amazing, right? And this is what happens when we disempower ourselves. I was really in the disempowered state because I was, on the one hand, telling myself, okay, I want to be here. I'm at this beautiful dinner. I decided to come here. I decided to spend my Saturday evening here. And at the same time, I was going against my own decision. My own decision of being there, my own decision of enjoying the presence of other people. And instead, I was in this turmoil inside as to how I shouldn't be here. So, this is a very classical example of disempowered state, meaning that I have decided that I would go there, and then I'm now rebelling against my own decision. And this happens to humanitarians all the time. It happened to me many times as well, where we decide to stay in the system, and then we bitch about how we don't want to be in the system after signing the contract, for instance, right? And you can probably feel that in your own experience as well. And the reason why it's disempowering state is because we are essentially saying that we don't like our decision now, even though we signed the contract, we don't like our decision. And instead of keep finding ways or instead of reminding ourselves our reason why we decided to stay, we keep rebelling against ourselves the whole time. That's a classic disempowering state where we don't go anywhere with that state, right? So disempowering state essentially is where we keep beating ourselves up or keep exhausting ourselves, keep rebelling against ourselves, even though it has no purpose, meaning we can't do anything with it. The same goes with, as I said, going against the system, right? Let's say that we have been wronged by the system. Unless we are going to the tribunal and going against the system in the formal way, us keep bitching about it probably will not get us anywhere anyway. And the same goes with our decision. If we decided to stay in the system and then we keep rebelling against our own decision every day, what is it that we're trying to achieve there? Nothing. The only thing that we'll achieve constantly is we feel very disempowered about our own decision. And the same goes for time, for instance. In the time management, we talk a lot about disempowered state is when we keep feeling busy, when we keep feeling like we're not in charge of our time, we're not in charge of our calendar, and then feeling like everyone else is in charge of our calendar. This is where we're not using our agency to decide how and at least what portion of the calendar we can be in charge of and how are we going to be in charge of it. Right? In the empowered state, though, the way that my Saturday evening could look like, sorry, I'm jumping from examples to examples, but I'm hoping that you are following. In the Saturday evening dinner example, the empowered state would be that, okay, I have decided to spend my Saturday evening there with friends. I am there. And then let's say that my inner voice comes up and says, oh, I don't like to be here. I shouldn't be here, and all of this. While my empowered state would then say, okay, if that's the feeling that you're having, decide. You can decide to leave now and tell them that you're not wanting to be here or you're not wanting to whatever, or maybe even come up with an explanation and you can leave. So why aren't you leaving? Right? I could really decide to leave. So either I leave, and in which case it's fine, then I go home or do whatever else. Or if I didn't leave, then I have a reason, whatever that reason is, then let's honor that reason and stay there. But there is no point in me keep rebelling and not having a good time or not at least enjoying being present. There is no point otherwise keep bitching about myself and my decision if I'm not willing to do anything with it. Right? If I'm not willing to decide to leave, then what's the point of me doing all of that? And the same goes for time management. If I keep saying that I'm busy and I'm exhausted and my calendar is so full and I can't do anything about it and all of this, then what I keep really saying is that I'm forced to do things that I don't want to do. And maybe that is true, that in the sense that a lot of the things at work that we don't really choose to do or we don't want to do because the reason why we're there is for other reasons, maybe. But then if we keep saying, I'm forced to do things that I don't want to do, we keep disempowering ourselves and feeling bad about ourselves. And most importantly, we keep feeling like as if we have no agency over what we're doing and we are manipulatable or forcible by other people, and other people can command us around to do things that we don't want to do. To see how important for us in every stage of after the making decision to implementation, are we empowering ourselves throughout that process, or we just keep disempowering ourselves the whole time that we feel exhausted by the time that we get to the outcome? Or we make our experience so miserable in the process that we don't even enjoy doing it, or we want to give up very fast because we just don't want to keep doing things this way, right? And I feel in the transitioning, a lot of the time this is happening. And this may also happen, by the way, if you're going to starting your own business. And I can see people disempowering themselves a lot by saying, oh, this is not how it should have been. This is not how I thought it would be. Okay, it is not how you thought it would be. Now what, right? That's always the question that I want people to really think about. Okay, this is not what I thought it would be. Now what am I going to do to solve it? Versus feel bad about it the whole time and then spending a lot of time feeling bad about it, and then later either giving up or start doing it again or start working on it anyway, but then we have lost all of this time. Right? So, and this can also happen in if you're transitioning to the private sector, obviously. The whole point of doing this exercise of talking about the empowered state and the disempowered state is, even if other people are trying to disempower us, even if other people or other entities, systems are trying to disempower us, the question always that you can ask yourself to start looking at, what is it that you are going to do about it? How are you going to let them do it or not let them do it? How are you going to, excuse me, use your own agency and authority over what to do about the situation, what to do about this circumstance, what to do about this system, versus keep staying in the disempowered state and keep feeling bad and worse by the day and by the minute, to a point that it becomes so difficult to come out of it, to a point that you feel so desperate at some point. And again, I think feeling desperate is something that we all experience. The problem is that we, when we get to that feeling of desperation, we often then feel we don't know how to get out of it, or it feels as if someone else put us in that desperation. And as long as we keep feeling someone else put us in that desperation, then it becomes so challenging to get out of it, because it will feel as if someone else is controlling our lives. It will feel as if someone else is deciding for us what to do. And if we don't want other people decide for us what to do, then obviously we need to start using our agency in every part of the process and start looking at, okay, this is how I'm disempowering myself and I don't like it. And here's how I can get myself to an empowered state where I assume and take up my agency, my authority to do something with it, to decide something with it, instead of just going along with it and getting myself to a place that I don't like being in. Okay, my dears. If you feel like you are currently in such a disempowered state and you feel you cannot get yourself out of this, please come coach with me. I would like to support you to really get you to see for yourself what are your patterns of getting yourself in disempowered state and why you keep doing it, and then how to get yourself out of it so that you have at least a protocol or a new pattern to follow that is different than how you have been managing all of this crisis so far. And if you would like, the consult link is down below. Have a beautiful week, and I'll